Here you will look at the situation as if you are completely disengaged. This is without a doubt ridiculously difficult. That's why the key is to keep all interactions as brief and unemotional as possible. You've hopefully started to draw your boundaries against the narcissist. In a perfect world, you're creating a new normal where you no longer have this person as part of your future. Alternatively, if this person is part of your family, you are in a work situation, or this person must remain a part of your life on an ongoing basis, then drawing very strict boundaries will be a must. Not being emotional when they are actively trying to provoke you is so hard. There is no doubt. I liken it to holding your breath. You can definitely do it for a few seconds if you need to. Then go scream into your pillow or cry in the shower. Just don't do it in front of them. Remember that old commercial that had the slogan, "Never let them see you sweat"? That goes quadruple fold here. Narcissists will get supply from seeing you sweat. Do not give them that satisfaction. That means to remember that while you are interacting with the narcissist, whether it's in person, in writing, or on the telephone, provide just the facts, but do not add anything emotional, accusatory, or inflammatory. If it helps, pretend you are reporting the news. Remember, you don't owe them an explanation or a justification. You can respond, but don't react. If, for example, the only thing you need to respond to is where and when to meet, here is how an alternative middle finger might look. I am in receipt of your email. I deny your accusations. We can meet at 3 p.m. on Wednesday. You have said you have received the email. You have denied everything all at once. And then you have responded to the one and only thing that you needed to respond to. That's it. You will have an agenda, a plan, and or a time limit when you go to speak to the narcissist about anything that you know will need to be negotiated or that will require any sort of discussion. You will definitely want to make sure that they know about the agenda in advance. This sends a very clear message to the other side that you are limiting the conversation and helps you take control of the conversation as well. It will also help you during the conversation because when it invariably goes beyond the scope of the topic, you can respectfully state that you are asking the conversation stay within the scope of the agenda for that day's meeting. Similarly, if the conversation reaches the time limit, you can let the other person know that you have to excuse yourself. You will be fluffing up their egos like you would fluff up a pillow. Remember that one form of diamond level supply is adulation or compliments. That is precisely what narcissistic fluffing is. It is stroking their ego a little bit or complimenting them. And if you do this in front of other people that they highly respect, that's even better. You will be doing this with purpose and very deliberately, and you will be doing this in exchange for getting something that you want in return. This is part of an overall plan. Please understand that I am not asking you to pander to this person or become a doormat. Quite the opposite. You will know what you are doing and why. Here's an example. Can you handle resolving the QuickBooks this month? You are so much more efficient at it than I am, and it would get done so much faster and more accurately than if I did it. Make sure when you're engaging in this conversation that you are very careful not to have any sort of sarcastic tone. Narcissists hear tones like dogs hear whistles. By that I mean that even if you have no tone whatsoever, they hear tone. They are very easily slighted. Also, be sure not to include anything nice about yourself. What I mean by that is, using the example you just heard, you would not say something like, "I'm also very good at QuickBooks, but I just don't have time, so I'm asking you, who I know is also a whiz." Even though you said they were good, they wouldn't be swayed because you said something good about yourself in there. That would be enough to take away from the whole thing and maybe even torpedo the entire mission. You observe their behavior verbally to them without emotion or judgment. So you might say something like, I can see that you're very upset, or I can see that you are angry. Or you might even ask them what it is that's making them so angry in that moment. Get them to verbalize it. You just want to take yourself out of it and observe their behavior to them, or ask them to explain their behavior without judgment, without emotion, and without defensiveness. You don't want to get into it with them. You're simply observing. Observe the situation as if you are a bystander. This is where you are actually going to take yourself out of the situation as if you are not part of it. You're just going to watch what's happening. Pretend like you're watching a 2-year-old having a tantrum on the floor. They're screaming. They're yelling. You don't feel like you need to get down on the floor and scream and yell with them. You usually just watch them. If it's helpful, start thinking of it as a game, like this is something that's happening in this moment, but doesn't have to affect you. Don't take anything they say or do personally, because the way people treat other people is always a reflection of the way they feel about themselves. When I was a kid, dodgeball was a big thing. I always really hated that game because I felt like I was constantly under the gun with that ball. But I remember the times that I would actually dodge the ball. I would see it go whizzing by my head. It would hit the wall next to me, but it didn't hurt me at all. I would just observe it. That's what I would think of when I think of this. Just let the words whiz by you, hit the wall, and fall on the floor. I would do this to help me focus and make sure that I had a powerful and winning mindset. This is seriously how I became one of the top lawyers. I pushed back against gripping fear by using this exact strategy. What you will do here is write down certain power words and keep them in front of you. You can have power words that resonate with you, such as power, strength, leverage, resilience, confidence, control. I am anticipating that what you are going to argue is this. And then here's my response to that. I'm also anticipating that you were going to have the position that, and then fill in the blank. And here is my response to that. And you go through every single one of their arguments and explain why their arguments don't hold water before they even have a chance to present them. I address the other side's arguments head on and shoot them down. This is especially effective if you have a weakness on your side of the fence. Your instinct may be to hide your weaknesses, but the converse is absolutely true. Bring your weakness right out, and then you control the narrative. If there's some fact that is going to come out that is not favorable to you, perhaps it was some behavior that you engaged in that they are planning to use against you, then don't sit aside hoping and praying it doesn't come out. The much stronger play is to say, I am anticipating that you are going to bring up that I did this. You are correct. I did. However, here's all the reasons why that doesn't matter right now. When you walk through the doors of the negotiation or show up on that Zoom call, have your arguments, leverage, research, and everything ready to go. Whatever the holes are in your case or argument, the narcissist will sniff them out faster and more efficiently than a dog can sniff out a speck of steak on the floor. They are formidable at finding weaknesses in people as they have made that their life's purpose. It is not in my personality type to pander. I'd rather pull my own toenails off. Seriously. But you want something from the narcissist, because if you didn't, why would you be bothering to negotiate with them? This is the same idea as fluff for favor, vomit later. Suck it up, smile through the crap, shake their hand, say hello, and be cordial. Please note, if you have any concerns for your safety, such as a history of domestic violence, disregard this advice. Be the bigger person and show that they don't rattle you. Walk in with confidence and power. Narcissists don't like looking bad or showing their narky side in front of people they respect, like lawyers, judges, arbitrators, or mediators. So they are less likely to be total jackasses in mediation, too. But their weakness is that they are willing to lose the war to win battles. In other words, because they often lack the ability to regulate themselves emotionally and not act impulsively, and because their behavior is so predictable in the sense that they will almost always choose the low road instead of behaving nicely, it's actually somewhat simple to lay a trap for them. In fact, I'll bet that you can anticipate your narcissist behavior with more accuracy than your local meteorologist can predict this weekend's weather. You've always had the power. You just had to learn it for yourself. Narcissists make you believe that you deserve to lose. Narcissists will tell you that you trigger them, and that's your fault. That means when it comes time to battle it out with narcissists, you are conditioned to keep looking over at the other side of the fence, meaning constantly and obsessively looking at what's going on in the other side's camp. In other words, what's the narcissist up to? What is their strategy? Why aren't they being called out for their behavior? It's not fair that they aren't being ordered to do such and such, and I am. What's going on with their friends? And so on. But that, my friends, is a path to losing. You want to win? You've got to stop obsessing about their side of the fence. I know it's hard. Been there. One of the biggest mistakes I have seen people make over and over, including many lawyers, by the way, is to spend too much time focusing on what's going on the other side. No football team has ever won Super Bowls by only having a good defense. You must have a strong offense first. Otherwise, no one is actually scoring points. You have to be scoring your own points, not just stopping the other side from scoring theirs. Certainly bring up the weaknesses of the other side, as I highlighted earlier in this book, but do not have your entire focus be on what the other side is doing wrong. Stay focused on your facts and your vision. Years ago, I worked for a misogynistic, narcissistic, megalomaniac guy who, on a daily basis, would say offensive things to me. During the period of time in which I had decided to leave that position but was contemplating my other options, I was doing what comes naturally for humans. I would complain about my job to everyone I knew. Everything about that old job seemed more and more wrong. The guy I worked for couldn't do anything right at that point. That's when I learned a valuable lesson. My business coach at the time taught me to distinguish the difference between leaving something by making it wrong and choosing something new because it was the best option for me. In other words, not running from, but choosing to go toward something that was positive for me. Such a powerful, powerful difference. Keeping my focus on the positive, not the negative, was the right option for me. And maybe thinking it is so hard when you're continuously getting pummeled on a daily basis by a narcissist. When you are dealing with these types of personalities, it is easy, and I mean so easy, no matter how hard you try not to get pulled in, sucked in, and caught up in the day-to-day eruptions, drama, trauma, and chaos they are constantly causing. In fact, I know there are those days when you've probably been able to measure how the day is going I get it. When you're under siege, you just constantly feel on the defensive, and so focusing on their case can be very enticing. But do not let them have that satisfaction. You are choosing to go to, not run from. Offensive, not defensive. Use their weaknesses to your advantage. You will need to do your best Meryl Streep and act like it's the worst thing in the world, like you basically cut off your right arm. Oh my, I can't believe they got away with this. Or wow, this is so unfair. OMG. See what I mean? You will have to check your ego at the door here. If you think you're going to win by letting the narcissist know that you won, then you'll never win. They'll never give in because then it would be over. As long as they have decided that you are their target, then they will continue to want to mess with you. What you're really doing is giving them a reason to find a different target. 1. Start with areas of agreement and work toward the more contested areas. As I mentioned earlier, it will be necessary to establish a rapport with the narcissist. When you want to move the narcissist off their position and closer to yours, the way to do that is not to push back against them as hard as you can. These people thrive on people pushing back against them. So the way to do it is to gently nudge them toward your position. Think about what happens when you hold your hand up, somebody else holds their hand up, and you push against each other. You feel that resistance immediately pushing back against your hand. But when you take your hand away, now there is nothing more for the other hand to push against. This is what you're doing with narcissists when you are negotiating with them. You want to think about getting them off of their position. One of the ways that you can do that is to start with areas where you think you might probably agree and then work toward the more contested areas. This way, both sides are feeling like they're getting somewhere. Both sides are having moments of feeling seen and heard. Both sides are feeling as though they are receiving some value, and the momentum will start to build. Once this happens, when you start tackling the more contested areas, the other side may be more likely to give in on certain things that they might not have been so likely to give in on at the beginning because they might not want to unravel the entire deal. Use your leverage. This is where you're going to ethically manipulate the manipulator into realizing that coming to an agreement that day is going to be the best thing for them, meaning that the risks will not outweigh the potential reward that they will be getting. Here, you will unveil what you have accumulated and demonstrate to them why coming to an agreement today will be in their best interests. Most importantly, you will want them to feel that their almighty diamond level supply is threatened in such a way that they will want to protect it. When they do that risk-reward analysis, you want them to think that the continual coal level supply that they can get from triggering you, jerking you around, and making your life miserable isn't worth their diamond level supply. They will have no choice but to let go of that source of supply in order to save the diamond level supply. You want them to conclude that continuing to get narcissistic supply from you is no longer worth the risk of losing the diamond level supply. Don't get sucked into being right or having conversations with yourself that involve the phrase, "it's the principle of the thing." Those two phrases don't generally lead to a peaceful, efficient resolution. Know what does, though? Using your strategies and leverage. Every bit of winning at the game of life happens right inside of you. You see, the battle with the narcissist is just that, the battle. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." Once you understand that, then you really start to make the shift. I want to make a distinction for you here. Here's what's negotiable. You can negotiate contracts. You can negotiate issues or terms. You can negotiate any topic you want. Here are your non-negotiables. You will never negotiate your self-worth. You will never negotiate your self-respect. You will never negotiate who you are. Today to start negotiating your best life. That's also the name of my podcast, Negotiate Your Best Life. At the beginning of my podcast, I say sometimes the very first negotiation we do with ourselves is for our own self-worth. How many of you can relate? The real secret to beating narcissists, communicating successfully with narcissists, and negotiating our best lives does not lie outside ourselves. It's what I call an inside-out job. By that I mean you really must start by feeling your own power inside, then work your way out.